Welcome to Standards Michigan teleconference. We are conducting an open markup session, and first on our agenda is a guest, Erin Grabe with PLASA. Erin, I'd like to turn it over to you, and you will be sharing with us a little bit about PLASA and the standards that are currently under review.
Hi, my name is Erin Grabe. Thank you for that introduction, Christine. I am the Assistant Technical Standards Manager for PLASA. We are a trade association for the entertainment technology industry. I'm going to start by giving a brief overview of PLASA, and then I'll talk a little bit about our standards writing process, and then we'll go into three of the standards that are in public review currently that are on your agenda for your open markup call. As I said, PLASA is a trade association. We rely on membership dues from folks that set up lights and concerts and productions and anything to do with live event production, really. The membership division handles all of the membership benefits and required membership requirements for everybody. We also have a media division that publishes magazines. Lighting and Sound America is one of our publications. Quarterly Journal Protocol is another one of our publications, and also Lighting and Sound International, which is the counterpart over in Europe. We also have an events division that sponsors trade shows. PLASA Focus events were smaller regional trade shows that were happening around the country, and the PLASA London show is the larger PLASA show that happens yearly over in London. We have a skills division. I'm not sure if how familiar you are with the entertainment technology industry specifically, but our skills division certifies entertainment technicians in the areas of rigging and electrical safety. And PLASA Technical is sort of the standards counterpart over in Europe. The American National Standards process is very different from the standards writing process in Europe, so PLASA Technical is sort of the counterpart to what we do. And we are PLASA Standards. The Technical Standards Program has been around since 1994. We're the largest volunteer-driven program in the industry. We're responsible for writing American National Standards. I'll give you a brief overview on what is a standard. This is probably a little bit remedial for some of you as you take on your standards awareness initiatives, but a standard is when a working group gets together and agrees upon a useful working practice, a protocol, a measurement, or a connection method. We call those resulting agreements standards. There's standards around you every day, some of that you may be aware of, some that you may not. For example, Wi-Fi is a standard that is useful. HDMI is a standard, and there are standards for ladders, width of roads, standards for nuts and bolts that you can buy a nut from Home Depot and a bolt from Lowe's, and they mate together because of standards. The standards writing process, I'll give you a very quick overview. A group of people get together and they write a document. That document is then offered to the public, and the public has two options. They can either agree with the document or disagree with the document. If they disagree with the document, they have to tell us why they disagree with the document, and all of that information goes back to the working group. Now, this cycle could go on and on forever until everybody is satisfied with the document, at which point, if they like the document, we're able to submit it to ANSI's Board of Standards Review. ANSI's Board of Standards Review takes our standards and ensures that we have complied with all of their essential requirements and all of our own requirements that set forth in our own policies and procedures. And if they say that we've done everything according to those essential requirements, then we're allowed to give the document to the world. As I said, PLASA is ANSI accredited. You guys are very familiar with the ANSI accreditation process, so I won't spend too much time here, but basically it boils down to voluntary consensus, balanced interest categories, for instance, users, manufacturers, specifiers, designers. These are all different interest categories that have to be accounted for, and we have to seek balance among all those interest categories in order to have a voluntary consensus on a document. ANSI also requires that we have no undue financial barriers and that we cannot have our membership or participation contingent on membership in any other organization. So as I said, PLASA is a membership organization, but we do not require and cannot require PLASA membership in order to participate in the Technical Standards Program. We have 8 different working groups: control protocols, electrical power, floors, fog and smoke, follow spot position, photometrics, rigging, and stage lifts. All of our members are either principal or individual or observer members, either essentially voting members or not voting members. And our interest categories personally are custom market producer, dealer or rental company, sorry that's cut off there a little bit, designer, general interest, mass market producer, and users. We currently have over 50 American National Standards published. We have been giving away our standards for free since April 15, 2013. We used to charge $40 for them each, and in 17 years we sold about 4,000 documents, and in 2 years we've given away over 30,000 for free, which is immensely huge for us as far as getting standards, like I said, into the hands of the people that need them. We currently have 25 open projects, roughly, and our groups typically meet 4 times a year. Our groups are also overseen by the Technical Standards Council, which ensures that our working groups are working under ANSI's essential requirements and our own requirements as well. I'm just going to briefly quickly move through this. Sorry. Our website is tsp.plaza.org/free-standards. You can download all of our published standards there. When you go there, it will look something like this. Approved standards are in blue. Superseded older versions are below them. It'll tell you which working group the document came out of, and when ANSI approved the standard. Additionally, we have the public review document page where you can see all of the projects that we have in public review. This is a general overview of what we expect people to do with the standards, what our goal is that people do with these standards. We want them to read the standards and understand them and be actively seeking out standards that are applicable to you and the work that you do. As a responsible professional, it's only the right thing to do. We ask that you cite them. This could be citing them around the water cooler at work, citing them in a paper you're writing at school, citing them on a purchase order that you're signing, to some company to buy something, and specifying them, for instance, on rental contracts and riders, and ask your labor providers as well. If you're doing some work with some labor providers and you have a specific standard that you want that work to be upheld to, you could ask your labor providers that the work be done in accordance with whatever standard it is that's applicable to the work at that time. Skip over this. Sorry, this is not for this talk. That's really it. We've got a Twitter account where you can learn about documents going into public review as well as documents that are being published. As I said, tsp.plaza.org/free-standards is where you can go to download all of our published American National Standards. And my name is Erin Grabe. My email address is erin.grabe@plaza.org. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain any of them. Thank you.
Christine?
So that's a wonderful overview of PLASA. Now what we would love to do is get a review of those 3 current...
Sure. So I don't have much. I guess I could go to the to the public review page. That might be helpful.
We also have them posted on our website if we want to flip over to there.
Well, let's
hand control back then.
Okay, sure. Let's do that. And then one thing I have to ask you: how were you able to? I'm glad I see other people using Prezi. You use it better than I do, particularly in the way of keeping that annoying full screen flag from coming up. I must talk to you a little bit how you were able to get that to, Adobe. How did you do that?
When you create the Prezi, you can download it for use offline as a sort of a standalone product, sort of a standalone package, and when you open up that standalone package, it gives you the option to go full screen for your presentation.
Okay, I'm going to have to learn that. It was, but I'm glad you did it a little more dramatically. I have a few I would like to be. You use it very elegantly. Let's put it that way. And I'm going to aspire to what you've done there. So let's
Thank you. I
see.
appreciate that.
Let's see. Do you find internal resistance? You've mastered it very well. You're doing exactly what it was intended to do. Are you? Is everybody? Of course, you're in the entertainment business, so you're going to be very close to what looks good.
It was something that I picked up. It's probably got a solid hour learning curve, but once you sort of understand what it can do, and I think it helps if you have AutoCAD experience and the ability to think in sort of one large space
Hmm.
electronically. I think that helps.
Yeah, actually, I put myself through college drafting oil rig control diagrams. So here we go. Well, let's talk a little bit about this one. Yeah, go ahead.
Wonderful. Okay, so this is BSR E1.42. BSR simply stands for Board of Standards Review, which means that it's not an American National Standard. It is a draft American National Standard or candidate American National Standard. This is the safety standard for orchestra pit lifts. It is currently in its third public review. And the Stage Lifts Working Group, which authored this document, really exists solely for the purposes of writing this document. They don't have any other draft standards or projects or published standards that they're working on. And this project really comes out of a need to address orchestra pit lift safety design inspection, where there really isn't any current guidance. A lot of authorities having jurisdiction will look at a orchestra pit lift and decide that perhaps it falls under elevator guidelines or something else because there just is no other thing that fits it specifically. And so if it's an elevator, then where is the elevator shaft and all of the pieces and parts that go into an elevator safety. So obviously an orchestra pit lift doesn't apply to elevator standards and can't really be applied to elevator standards. So this document was written to address the lack of a standard in the realm of orchestra pit lifts.
Funny you mentioned that. I was actually the call I had just before here was with the State of Michigan Elevator Safety Board, and you're absolutely right. There is and I'm also on the National Electrical Code. There is nothing out there for this, so I credit you for finding a spot. Yeah.
And so it deals with commissioning of the systems, design specifications, brake requirements, welding and welding certifications for people that are welding these things together, all the control systems, safety devices. It deals with shear and crushing protection, and offers guidance on inspections of these systems. Offers them up as an annual and a 5-year inspection when there's no equivalent inspection called out in the user's manual that's given from the manufacturer, unless those requirements are more stringent than what we're proposing here. Obviously, you would take the more stringent requirement over what's here. So that's pretty much that's pretty much the crux of that. It was written to address a need, fill a hole in the industry for guidance on safety for orchestra pit lifts. If you want to move down to the next one, we've got sorry, do you have any questions on BSRE 1.42?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm fine.
So the next one on the list there, BSRE 1.53, overhead mounting of luminaires and lighting accessories. This standard, draft standard, was born out of an email from Actors Equity. Actors Equity wrote to PLASA and was concerned with lighting fixtures and lighting accessories having nearly missed, hurting some people falling from the grid or falling from some battens above the stage. So in a way, I'm sure that there probably are cases out there of people being injured by these things falling, but this wasn't the result of some major catastrophe. This was written because Actors Equity was looking for guidance on how luminaires should be mounted, and if there was to be a secondary safety device mounted, how it should be used. And when PLASA started doing research, we found that the user manuals for a lot of lighting instruments say that you have to have a safety cable or that you should use a safety cable, but they don't say that you have to have one, and they don't say how to use it. And so this document sort of suggests that you know, you have a primary and a secondary mounting device for all of your stage and studio luminaires and accessories. And this would include small special effects equipment such as fog machines and bubble machines. Those are also covered in the standard. And it offers guidance on how to properly mount these particular devices and what the secondary mounting device requirements would be. It details, you know, it discusses whether the mounting devices and secondary devices, primary and secondary devices, are rated versus unrated. And if they're unrated, it offers guidance on proof testing the devices and keeping record of your own proof test for those exact devices, and that they would then be suitable for use and in compliance with the standard. So again, this was sort of a preventative document. You know, some documents are written when major problems happen and people lose lives or something like that, but this is sort of a preventative one, and one that if you ask any lighting technician out there, they would say, oh, sure, you know, there's a standard out there that says you have to use safety cables. Well, really, there isn't. You know, everybody says you have to use them, but there really is nothing that you could point to that says that you do have to use them and how to properly use them. The next one on that list, if there's no questions on BSR E1.53.
Well, speaking of that one being preventive or one that anticipates, or now I think now you do have one that was inspired by some recent marquee events.
Sure. BSR E1.46 is the standard for the prevention of falls from theatrical stages and raised performance platforms. Not our longest-winded title, but up there. This is actually, you know, written to address the very real problem of people falling from stages, or into orchestra pit lifts, or into open stage traps, or from raised platforms. I think sometimes in the industry there's this sort of inherent belief that working in a theater, that's just a risk that you take. If you're an actor on stage or a technician, that, you know, we work on the edge of things and we like it that way, and that's just the risk that people take. But really, you know, our common goal is that everybody come to work or come to a show and go home safely at the end of the day. And this is a standard that is written to help that goal. This standard offers some guidance above and beyond what OSHA offers. OSHA regulations are there to be sort of a minimum requirement that employers are expected to do to protect their employees. They have separate guidelines that require protection of your audience members. For instance, you know, railing height is different for an audience member than it is for an employee. And this document attempts to offer guidance on the world of theater in light of the OSHA regulations. So, for instance, let's see. The fall protection plan is a requirement of this standard. It asks that you do a risk assessment and assess not only the risks, but those who are at risk. So, for instance, if you had special requirements because you had actors on stilts, they're a little bit taller than normal height, and OSHA regulations are written for normal height. So this standard offers guidance that maybe you need to look at the height of the person on the stilts and offer some mitigation, risk mitigation to those people who are taller than the normal height. It asks you to consider your risk assessment in terms of a hierarchy. For instance, the elimination of a risk would be at the top. If you can eliminate the risk, that's the best. If you're engineering, in the engineering, you can add guardrails or barriers or a fire safety curtain. This is sort of some other practical thing that you can do to prevent that risk. The administration mitigation techniques that you could put in place. For instance, blocking, using strategic blocking in rehearsals that sort of create this muscle memory and create this idea that the actor on stage is becoming aware of their boundaries. For instance, putting up a handrail during rehearsals and teaching people particular blocking that stays within those boundaries. Then when you remove the handrail for the performances, you could add a couple of rehearsals where you have somebody focused and dedicated to watching the edge of the stage and maybe giving you a verbal warning if you come within some distance from the edge of the stage that you're trying to prevent people from going. And lastly, you could add personal protection equipment, which is probably the minimum that you could do, but the personal protection equipment requires that there's some administration techniques in place to ensure that people are using their PPE consistently and in a safe manner each and every time. So this standard here is really to offer guidance above and beyond what OSHA offers, and to offer it in a very practical sense, I think. And we welcome comments on any of these 3 standards or any of the other standards that we currently have in public review. I think there's 5 other documents there.
Yeah, I picked these just because I have to have a discipline that requires what, in our judgment, would be of immediate interest to the education industry, and certainly these are very important documents. You've pointed out the holes that I've seen over my career. I've been doing this for about 20 years now. I'm on the National Electrical Code too, so I'm very familiar with some of the discussions, and there's no discussion of some of these dangers certainly in the National Electrical Code. There's a couple in there others where somebody correctly identified gaps in the standards. So, well, I do have a technical limit on how long these calls can be. Generally, we need to keep them in about 30 minutes. They get to be a little bit unwieldy. I think you can appreciate it, knowing what you know about entertainment technology. So my hope here is that we'll upload this on YouTube, and we usually have to identify it as part of our safer, simpler, lower cost, longer lasting agenda. But I do think that you're really out there in an area that really has, you're filling a gap that I think is very necessary. And of course, in entertainment events, they're often very marquee. They're very public. Well, of course, I mean, you're displaying a talent or an event, and they become, I'm thinking of some of the events that have happened with some of the rock stars. I know my daughter is a model, and she's running down in these very high heels, and I'm just wondering, how do they manage to not fall? So that's very, very, very interesting. So you're on our radar, obviously, and we'll try to follow up. Hopefully this brings awareness. Question, do you have any education industry users or anybody from any college or university unit that's involved in your standards writing?
Absolutely. We have a number of members who represent different educational institutes across the country. John Huntington from the New York City College of Technology is one who comes to mind. He was a professor of mine at New York City College of Technology and a mentor. He's also got a website, www.controlgeek.net, where he discusses a lot of these issues in the entertainment technology industry, such as stages collapsing in severe weather, and he takes a spin on that.
What's his website? What's his website again?
www.controlgeek.net.
Oh, okay. All right.
Or maybe it's controlgeek.com. Could be controlgeek.com.
There we go.
No, that's the one. Yeah. So right there, yeah, stage roof collapse at Back to the Bricks Festival in Grand Blanc, Michigan. So it's a really good resource for knowing what's going on in the industry, stages that are collapsing. Also, he uses the website to post pictures, and he's got amateur weather chasing photos and a lot of stuff going on there.
Anything else? So you're saying other let's say like a University of Wisconsin or a Kentucky State.
We've got members from the University of Wisconsin Madison. We've got members from North Carolina School of the Arts. We've got members who are from Yale,
Okay, good.
and
So it sounds
Carnegie Mellon, places like that.
okay. It sounds to me.
One of the best things I think that we've seen, though, is with the distribution of our standards for free is it now enables students to sort of really delve in, because they can go to our website and download a standard for free and say, write a paper for it in class. We have found that to be very helpful, because it creates a culture of students who are leaving the educational institutes with a pretty good grasp and knowledge of what's going on already in their professional environment.
Right. I mean, that's a very important part. I think Christine has made this point, and I think I'm hoping she'll have some time to develop it a little bit more. But if you were going to build a bridge between the theory of a four-year college like U of M and actually doing something practical with it that's meaningful to an organization that'll pay them for it, standards is the path, is the fastest path. Did I say that correctly, Christine?
Yes, I think what we have noticed is that other countries' higher education systems seem to have more of a presence in regards to standards education. So, like, for example, what you just said is really terrific, because students can access that information and become more attuned to what a standard is in this particular industry. But that would be the case in a wide variety of industries in other countries' higher education systems, if you follow me.
Absolutely.
Well, so it sounds to me like that you're comfortable with your proportion of educational institutions that are engaged in writing your standards. I will only refine some of our statements here, and we will often use a term. There are many. I'm going to put the word final fiduciary. Who is the final fiduciary? And the distinction we try to make is very often you'll find domain experts that are very skilled in knowing exactly what's going on in their area. I'm going to see if I can find, we did a focus on this. Long story short, without belaboring and boring everybody with me trying to pick around for it, is that there isn't, particularly larger institutions, there are people who are specifically addressing safety issues, and they're not as concerned about the cost of the safety. It would be my boss that would have to reconcile competing priorities of safety and economy. So that's the distinction we try to make. But we understand also we have to be very careful, because usually those are the people who know most about what is where the safety hazards are. It's just my boss that's got to say, here's an event that's going to cost so much. Here's the safety people saying this is what safety is going to cost, and he has to make that decision. So how can I make his decision a little less like a day in the track? So that's why we try to emphasize that our particular interest is in the making sure the final fiduciary, the person who has a primary concern in supporting the safety mission, but also has to keep them in business. And I call that balance sheet safety.
Sure, sure. Well, for safety standards, I mean, certainly, accidents cost a lot of time and money, specifically, especially when they result in loss of life.
Yeah, and very publicly also. In the events that you're representing, they can be very public accidents. We have a lot of accidents that are non-public, but this is where you don't want the world to see that you cut the corners on safety. So, well, look, I hope we can do this again, maybe more specifically. Again, I don't want to run up a half terabyte file again for our student who helps us do these videos. So, Christine. You want to close the call out here in some fashion?
Certainly. I just wanted to thank Erin Grabe from PLASA for sharing with us not only the review of the standards, but also an overview of PLASA and its purpose. And I want to thank you, Erin. Hope to have you join us again at another teleconference in the future.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.